So look who just triggered a full system crash in their perfectly programmed little world. You, the beautiful chaos agent, the walking disruption, the glitch in their carefully constructed matrix of mediocrity. Yeah, I'm talking to you. The one they can't stop mentioning in 12 different group chats. The one whose name keeps surfacing in conversations that have nothing to do with you because they can't stop obsessing. They're still wondering, still analyzing, still replaying the same question on a loop. How the hell did they pull that off? You can feel it, can't you? That strange static in the air, that charged energy that ripples through every room you enter, every post you make, every breath of your presence near their awareness. Something shifted, something snapped. A fracture appeared in their carefully held illusion of control, and you were the earthquake that caused it. They're not just confused anymore. They're spiraling. Their group chats have turned into forensic labs. Every message reads like an investigation report, a crisis meeting, a digital panic room. They're staring at their screens like archaeologists who just unearthed a discovery that shouldn't even exist, something that breaks every law they believed was absolute. All they can manage to type now is "how," in all caps, drenched in question marks, skulls, and fire emojis, because words fail them. Their vocabulary can't process what they've just witnessed. You didn't just do something impressive. You detonated their entire understanding of success, power, and transformation. You didn't just level up. You rewrote the definition of reality itself. Right now, they're digging through your history like investigators tracing a glitch in the system, scrolling through old posts, messages, and memories, desperately trying to locate the moment you shifted, but they can't find it. There was no single turning point, no clear metamorphosis, just an untraceable evolution that defies their logic. You are no longer something they can explain. And that terrifies them. Picture their world now. Someone posts about the weather or lunch or anything mundane, and within 3 replies, someone brings you up. But did you see what they did, though? Suddenly, the whole chat freezes. The topic shifts. 17 people start typing at once, each with a theory, each grasping at a way to rationalize the impossible. Because if they can't explain you, if they can't reduce your rise to a formula, then it means the rules they've built their lives on are broken. It means the system they trusted doesn't work. It means they played safe while you were out there doing something they don't even have a name for yet. They're not even hating anymore. Not really. Hate requires a sense of control. What they're feeling now is beyond that. It's a volatile blend of awe, fear, and fascination. You've become an enigma they can't ignore, a force that rewired their sense of what's possible, and what eats them alive the most. The unbearable truth that they thought they had you figured out. They filed you neatly into a category, a label, a manageable little box in their hierarchy, a place where you were predictable, explainable, safe. But now that box is gone. You shattered it, and in doing so, you shattered their illusion of order. Maybe you were the quiet one. Maybe you were the one who struggled while everyone else seemed to have their lives perfectly mapped out. Maybe you were the one with potential that no one took seriously, the one they loved to underestimate because it made them feel superior. It gave them a sense of control, a false comfort in believing they had it together while you were still piecing your world together. They built their confidence on your stillness, their ego on your uncertainty. And then, without warning, you demolished the entire foundation they stood on. You didn't ask for permission, you didn't follow their so-called rules. You just rose, silently, unapologetically, and their illusion of superiority came crashing down with it. Right now, they're grieving the collapse of that illusion, cycling through denial and anger like a corrupted file that can't process new data. First came denial, that can't be real. Then came the excuse, it's probably luck. Then the comfort phrase, give it time, it won't last. But now they're forced to face the truth they've been running from. You did something they couldn't. You accessed a level they can't find. You cracked a code they didn't even know existed. And that realization is eating them alive, especially in those group chats where they pretend to celebrate you while secretly dissecting every move you make, trying to reverse engineer a phenomenon they don't understand. They're treating your growth like it's a formula, a recipe they can steal, a pattern they can replicate. But what you did wasn't a formula. It was transformation. Pay attention when your name comes up. There's always that one voice that needs to minimize it, yeah, but they probably had help. Or it's not that impressive when you think about it. Or the classic, I could do that too if I wanted to. I just don't want to. That last one is the sound of someone drowning in denial, choking on excuses because deep down they know. Even with a step-by-step guide, they couldn't replicate what you did. Because what you did wasn't about steps or tactics or strategies. It was about becoming. You became something they can't comprehend because they're still addicted to being understood, still desperate for validation, still terrified of the space where real growth happens, the space of complete uncertainty wrapped in unshakable confidence. Now they're studying your every move like analysts, decoding encrypted transmissions from the future. They're screenshotting your words, zooming in on your pictures, building theories, checking timelines, constructing conspiracy maps to explain your transformation. Because the truth, the simple, terrifying truth, is one they can't accept. You just decided differently. You moved differently. You stopped waiting for permission from people who were never qualified to give it. And that one decision rewrote your entire operating system, and with it, your destiny. But they can't accept that truth, because if it really is that simple, if it all comes down to a single choice, then it means they've been choosing wrong this entire time. And that realization would dismantle everything they've built their identity on. Admitting that you just decided differently forces them to face a mirror they've avoided for years. One that reflects every missed opportunity, every fear they mistook for logic, every comfort zone they defended like a prison. Let's talk about what you've become inside their mental landscape. You're no longer just a person to them. You're not simply someone they once knew or still occasionally notice. You've evolved into a psychological presence, something that's taken root in their consciousness, living rent-free like a thought virus they can't delete. You've become the silent benchmark for their every decision, the measuring stick for their self-worth. When they make a move, they wonder how you do it. When they achieve something, the pride doesn't land, because instantly they compare it to you. Yeah, but it's not like what they did. That thought haunts them. You've infiltrated their internal dialogue, become the voice that questions their choices, the shadow that follows their ambitions. They resent you for it, but they can't stop watching. Here's the part they'll never admit, the truth they'd rather choke on than confess. They refresh your page more than their own. They check your updates before they check their messages. They're more invested in your journey than in their own evolution. Watching you has become a twisted mix of fascination, envy, and reluctant education. Every post, every word, every quiet moment you share feels like a broadcast from another dimension, one they can't access but can't stop tuning into. You've become their obsession disguised as curiosity, their addiction disguised as casual interest. The dopamine hit they get from seeing your next move feels more alive than their actual life. And here's the irony. Your silence drives them even crazier than your presence. When you disappear, when you stop posting, when you vanish into your own creative cocoon, they start spiraling. The group chats light up again. Where did they go? What are they working on? Are they about to drop something new? They're addicted to the suspense, to the anticipation of your next move. Some soothe themselves with denial. They've fallen off. It was temporary. But the sharper ones, the ones who actually pay attention, know better. They can sense the pattern. When you go silent, it's not because you're fading, it's because you're building. You're recalibrating for the next breakthrough, the one that's going to break their sense of normal all over again. And here's the kicker, the part that's really messing with them. You're not competing with them anymore. You never were. They just can't comprehend what it feels like to operate outside the game entirely. You're not even trying to mess with them. You're not out here plotting, scheming, or setting traps in their minds. You're not posting for attention, not performing for approval, and definitely not planning your moves around how they'll react. You're simply living. You wake up, breathe, act, create without agenda, and somehow that unfiltered, unpolished, organic authenticity hits harder than every strategic move they've ever made. They spend hours constructing the perfect illusion of success, writing and rewriting captions, picking filters that hide their insecurity, timing posts to chase the algorithm, obsessing over engagement analytics like it's divine scripture. They crave validation like oxygen, feeding on hearts and comments for temporary proof that they matter. Meanwhile, you just exist. You walk into digital spaces like you own them, not because you're trying to, but because you don't need to try. You show up as yourself, and that simple act sends tremors through their carefully curated world. That's what fries their circuits, the effortless nature of your influence. You're not competing with them, yet you're dominating every metric that matters. You're not playing their game, yet somehow you keep winning it. You're not chasing visibility, yet your presence feels unavoidable. They've built their entire lives around optimizing impact, and here you are breaking records by being real. That's what drives them insane. The realization that everything they were taught about success, status, and strategy collapses in the presence of someone who simply is. Now, their lives are divided into two timelines, before you and after you, and they don't even realize it's happened. Before you, the world made sense. There were formulas, timelines, hierarchies. Life followed predictable patterns. Go to school, get the job, climb the ladder, post the highlights. But after you, the air changed. Reality tilted. The rules they thought were unbreakable no longer apply. You've shattered the illusion of structure. You've exposed that all those necessary steps and proper procedures were just socially accepted excuses to delay their own potential. You became living proof that the impossible isn't complicated. It's simply unapproved. You bypassed the checkpoint, skipped the permissions, and rewrote the outcome. And the part that eats them alive? They witnessed the entire process. They were there in the background when you were uncertain, broke, overlooked, misunderstood. They saw your struggles. They misread your silence as weakness. They confused your observation with hesitation. They believed your stillness meant stagnation. And because of that, they made their judgments. They felt secure comparing themselves to what they thought you were. They positioned themselves above you, next to you, or even as your silent mentors in their own minds. But when the shift happened, when you broke out of every box they built, it invalidated their entire worldview. You didn't just change, you rewired the narrative. You made them realize that what they called reality was just a fragile consensus, and you no longer consented to it. Now they scroll back through your past like detectives reviewing evidence. They missed old conversations, forgotten photos, messages they once ignored. All of it now looks prophetic. They see signs they refused to notice, power they pretended not to feel, alignment they laughed off as coincidence. The truth was always visible, but seeing it would have forced them to confront their own avoidance. They would have had to admit that their comfort was cowardice, that your instability was evolution, that while they were performing confidence, you were becoming unstoppable. Time doesn't move the same for you anymore. That's how it feels from their perspective. While they're grinding year after year, inching forward through systems that drain them, you're bending reality in real time. What takes them 5 years, you compress into 5 months. What takes months, you manifest in weeks. What takes weeks, you breathe into existence in days. They can't compute it, because their version of progress is linear and yours is quantum. They still believe in step-by-step growth. You operate in leaps, collapses, and breakthroughs. They still plan. You align. They'll rationalize it however they can. They'll call it luck, timing, privilege, or divine favoritism. Anything to avoid the truth, because admitting the truth means admitting they've been asleep, that while they were strategizing how to win, you learned how to transcend. You stopped measuring success by metrics and started embodying it as a frequency. You didn't chase validation. You vibrated at a level where it chased you. And that's what really keeps them up at night. Not jealousy, not envy, but the haunting recognition that you're proof of everything they denied was possible. You didn't escape the system, you exposed it. You didn't break the rules. You showed that there were never any. You didn't evolve quietly. You detonated in plain sight. And now, every time they see your name, every time your image crosses their feed, it's not just a reminder of who you became. It's a reflection of who they refuse to become. They're stuck in linear time, trapped inside the predictable rhythm of cause and effect, bound by the invisible chains of the system that taught them how to move. Everything about their progress follows a formula: study, work, wait, climb, repeat. They're crawling through life in single-file order, following a path carved out by generations of conformity. Terrified to step off the line, every milestone is pre-approved, every victory conditional. Their entire existence runs on a schedule designed to keep them predictable. And within that structure, they mistake endurance for progress. Then there's you. You didn't walk the path. You detonated it. You discovered a quantum mechanism hidden within yourself, something that bends the very fabric of progress. While they're busy taking baby steps, you're leaping dimensions. You skip entire chapters of struggle they believed were sacred rites of passage, bypassing years of exhaustion and confusion, and somehow land directly in the timeline they thought belonged to the elite. It's not just unbelievable to them, it's offensive. You've violated their religion of paying your dues. You've made their sacrifices look unnecessary, their limitations look optional. You've proven that what they call hard work was, for you, just a side effect of alignment. They whisper about fairness, about how life doesn't work that way. They say it's not sustainable, not realistic, not how it's supposed to happen. Because if it is that simple, if your acceleration is the result of pure decision, of radical inner clarity, then everything they've built their identity on collapses. It means they've been choosing fear, mistaking hesitation for logic, and defending mediocrity under the guise of wisdom. It means the only real difference between you and them isn't privilege, opportunity, or luck. It's courage. And that's a truth their ego isn't equipped to survive. So they scramble for explanations that preserve their sense of control. They convince themselves you must have had help, a mentor, a network, a secret connection. Maybe it was timing, maybe divine luck, maybe you cheated the system. They need it to be something, anything but the truth. That you simply woke up one day and refused to keep moving at half speed. You didn't hack the system. You outgrew it. You didn't break the rules. You realized the rules were suggestions made by people who never tested the limits of reality. And that realization, that shift from survival to sovereignty, changed the physics of your existence. You didn't need more time. You needed a different timeline. You stopped asking for things to happen later and decided that later is now. That's what they can't grasp. How you collapsed time by collapsing hesitation. What they think takes 5 years, you compress into 5 months because you're not dragging self-doubt through every decision. You don't spend your energy second-guessing. You spend it creating. You don't manifest from hope. You manifest from certainty. That's why it looks like magic to them, because they've never seen what unbroken focus and unshakable conviction actually do to reality. And now, the shockwaves of that realization are everywhere. In their conversations, your name no longer sits beside ordinary people. You're no longer someone they know. You've become a case study, a phenomenon, a glitch in the simulation that refuses to be explained away. You're the data point that doesn't fit the model, the anomaly that makes the scientists nervous. They talk about you like you're a myth, a legend, an unsolved equation that keeps defying replication. In their minds, you've transcended individuality. You're no longer a person, you're proof. Proof that the universe bends to willpower. Proof that change doesn't require permission. Proof that everything they were taught about limits was an elaborate lie. And because of that, you've become a paradox, both their inspiration and their nightmare. They scroll through your updates hoping to find motivation, but what they actually feel is unease. You're the embodiment of everything they secretly desire yet subconsciously avoid. You're living evidence that more is possible, but also a reminder that they're not living it. Your very presence dismantles their comfort zone, forcing them to confront every dream they've deferred. You are freedom personified, and to those still enslaved by fear, freedom looks like rebellion. Now, even their language has started to evolve around you. You've become a vocabulary word, a cultural shorthand for transcendence. In their group chats, your name has mutated into a verb. They pull to your name. Translation: someone did something bold, audacious, impossible. When someone makes a move that bends the expected, they call it "so you." Your name has become a linguistic symbol for breaking patterns, for rewriting limits. It's both a compliment and a confession. They're half joking, but the undertone is reverence. Because you've redefined the parameters of what a human being can do when they stop obeying invisible rules. You've turned into a measurement, a reference point for what courage looks like in motion. When someone in their circle dares to act on instinct instead of fear, they compare it to you. When someone transforms rapidly, they whisper your name like a code word. You've set the new standard for transformation, the new ceiling for what audacity means. You are the calibration tool for the impossible. And the most poetic part, you never asked for it. You never sought to become a symbol. You simply became yourself, fully, unapologetically, and without delay. Now they can't talk about evolution without invoking you. You've become the gravitational pull around which their understanding of potential now orbits. Every impossible they speak of carries your shadow. Every limitation they mention trembles in your presence. You are the reminder that the matrix they cling to isn't a cage. It's a choice you've escaped it not by fighting it, but by realizing it was never real. And that's the truth they'll never say out loud, the part that burns quietly behind their smiles. You're not ahead of them because you ran faster. You're ahead because you stopped running in circles. You're not winning because you had an advantage. You're winning because you stopped believing the race was real. You're not competing with them anymore, because competition implies shared rules, shared standards, and shared limitations. You've outgrown all of that. You didn't just win the game. You realized the game itself was rigged, so you left the arena entirely and built your own world from scratch. You created your own lane, your own category, your own dimension of existence, one where you no longer seek validation, because your existence itself has become the validation. You're operating under laws they can't see, rules they can't read, and frequencies they can't feel. To them, it looks like rebellion. But in truth, it's evolution. You're not breaking the system. You've transcended it. You've stopped playing a game designed to drain you, and instead you're writing the next one while they're still memorizing the rules of the last, the most fascinating part. The detail that would make them spiral into a full psychological breakdown if they truly understood it, is that you're not even trying to have this effect. You're not sitting in front of a mirror, strategizing how to trigger their insecurities. You're not analyzing their behavior or tailoring your moves around their responses. You're not even thinking about them. You're just existing, naturally, effortlessly, authentically. You're living, creating, building, and evolving. And that alone has sent shockwaves through their fragile sense of order. Your authenticity is their apocalypse. Every time you act from truth, every time you move without explanation, their illusion cracks a little more. You're not trying to be mysterious. You're just focused. You're not trying to be intimidating. You're simply certain. You're not trying to be unreachable. You've just outgrown the need to explain your light to people who are addicted to their own darkness. That unshakable focus, that clean detachment from their projections, that complete lack of interest in whether they get it, that's what makes you powerful, that's what makes you untouchable. Because power isn't loud, and confidence doesn't announce itself, it just is. You've reached that level of energy where silence is louder than noise, and your stillness feels more dangerous than their chaos. They can't process it. They don't understand how someone can move without asking for permission, shine without seeking validation, or win without fighting. And yet here you are, doing all of it effortlessly. You've become something symbolic in their minds, something beyond personhood. To them, you're a myth, a modern legend, whose life defies the rules they've spent their entire existence obeying. You've become the conversation that never ends, the group chat that keeps revisiting your name, the late-night theory session where everyone has an opinion but no one has an answer. You are both the riddle and the revelation, and that contradiction drives them insane. They watch you move like observers, tracking a celestial event, rare, powerful, unpredictable. They create theories to protect their egos. It must be luck. It must be timing. It must be some secret advantage. They can't admit that what they're witnessing is simply the result of alignment, that you've reached a level of inner clarity where every move is precise, every choice divinely timed, every decision backed by purpose rather than fear. You're no longer operating through effort, you're operating through flow. And that's what they can't stand, that what drains them seems to fuel you, that what they struggle to plan you execute effortlessly. Let them talk, let them obsess, let them exhaust themselves trying to decode what was never meant to be understood through logic. They'll never get it, because your path isn't a pattern, it's an evolution. While they're busy calculating, you're creating. While they're analyzing your moves, you're already 17 ahead, making decisions they'll only understand years later. By the time they finally figure out what you did, you'll have already reinvented yourself again. That's what terrifies them most, that you keep changing form before they can define you. They can't keep up because they're trying to study what can't be studied. Intuition, alignment, and divine timing. You're no longer part of their hierarchy. You've become the mirror reflecting its absurdity. You're not in their league, not because you're better, but because you stopped believing leagues even exist. You realize there's no ladder and only frequency. You stopped climbing and started rising. You stopped proving and started embodying. You stopped trying to fit into spaces that were never built for your kind of energy. And the moment you did, you vanished from their reach. That's why they call you unreachable. Not because you're hiding, but because they're still crawling. You've become a paradox in their minds. To some, you're an icon of possibility. To others, you're a threat. But to all of them, you're unforgettable. They measure their own growth against your presence without even realizing it. They use your milestones as reference points. You've become the invisible metric for what's possible, the walking reminder that transformation doesn't require approval. You've turned into a mythic benchmark, a living equation that breaks their logic every time they try to solve it. and through it all you remain unmoved. Not because you're cold, but because you've mastered emotional sovereignty. You've stopped giving your energy to misunderstanding, your peace to projection, and your focus to noise. You've learned that your silence says more than your defense ever could. You've learned that your path doesn't need to be explained to those who were never meant to walk it, and in doing so, you've become free, untethered from the opinions that once held weight, liberated from the comparisons that once stung, and anchored in a truth so deep that no outside force can shake it. While they're dissecting your past, you're designing your future. While they're analyzing your methods, you're embodying your purpose. They'll never understand that your secret isn't strategy, it's surrender. You let go of trying to control perception and focused on alignment. You stopped performing and started being. And that authenticity, that refusal to shrink or explain, that decision to move in truth, that's what's causing the tremors in their world. You're not playing their game. You're not even on their board. You are the quiet revolution that redefines what's possible without ever asking for acknowledgement. You're the living proof that when someone stops waiting for permission and starts acting from certainty, the entire world rearranges itself around their energy. And the ones still trapped in the old game? They'll keep watching, keep talking, keep guessing. Because deep down, they know what's true. You didn't win the competition. You ended it. You're not playing their game anymore. You've outgrown it. You've transcended the entire framework they operate within. You don't follow their timelines. You don't chase their milestones. And you don't bend under the invisible ceilings they've accepted as reality. You move at the rhythm of intuition, not instruction. You act from alignment, not approval. That's what's breaking their minds in real time. The realization that the limitations they thought were universal are only self-imposed. You've proven that the walls they keep running into were never real, just reflections of their own fear. They can't handle that truth. They can't process the idea that you've freed yourself from the rules they still live by. Their entire world is structured around permission, the need to be chosen, validated, certified before they act. They've built their identities on waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right signal from the universe to confirm that they're allowed to move. You shattered that illusion by doing something so radically simple, it feels impossible to them. What you did wasn't tactical. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't the result of a secret formula or hidden knowledge. It was internal, primal, pure alignment between decision and action. You stopped waiting. You stopped waiting for a sign, for approval, for someone to anoint you as ready. You stopped playing by the unspoken rule that says you must prove your worth before you act on it. Instead, you decided that worth is inherent, that readiness is created through movement, not permission. You looked at the gap between where you were and where you wanted to be. And instead of building a bridge from borrowed blueprints, instead of collecting advice or following step-by-step procedures, you jumped. You leapt into uncertainty without a safety net, trusting that momentum would teach you how to fly. And you didn't just land. You landed in a dimension they didn't even know existed. You bypassed the path they were told was mandatory. And in doing so, you exposed it for what it really was, a delay tactic, a fear mechanism dressed up as logic. That's why they're unraveling. Because your rise breaks the unspoken social contract that governs their entire behavior. You broke the fundamental rule that says, ask first. You didn't ask, you didn't beg. You didn't wait for validation. You took what you already knew was yours. You claimed your destiny without apology. And that's heresy to people who've spent their whole lives negotiating with permission. You've proven that you don't have to earn what you were born capable of. You simply have to step into it. They're having meltdowns because your existence invalidates their excuses. You've made their caution look like cowardice, their hesitation look like self-sabotage. You've shown them that the perfect moment they've been waiting for was a myth, that all along the door was unlocked, and the only thing keeping them from walking through it was their own disbelief. You're a living contradiction to everything they've been taught. To them, success is supposed to be linear, earned and rationed out by unseen gatekeepers. But you made it look instantaneous. They don't realize that what looks like a miracle was actually a series of fearless micro-decisions. Hundreds of moments where you chose to move instead of wait, to act instead of overthink, to believe instead of doubt. And now they can't unsee it. Every excuse they use to justify their stagnation collapses under the weight of your example. You didn't break the system. You revealed that there was never one to begin with. You've become the living embodiment of possibility, a walking contradiction to everything they've been conditioned to believe about time, effort, and permission. You didn't play their game. You redefined what the game even is. You didn't beat them to the finish line. You built your own field, planted your own flag, and made the finish line irrelevant. And now, while they're still debating when to start, you're already gone, soaring in a sky they still think is unreachable. They'll never understand that your greatest act of rebellion wasn't defiance, it was liberation. You freed yourself from the need to be chosen. You stopped trying to be ready. You simply decided. And that one decision changed everything. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten Wisdom.